So unless you want to follow in these footsteps and be broke as hell and living with your parents, by all means, go for it.
Yeah, buddy. Let's do this.
Sup mates, Evan from evolutionaryaesthetics.com, and in this video I'm going to dive into what it took for me to get my heart rate variability, which I'll be using HRV for short, up to 243. So what in the hell even is heart rate variability? HRV is the change in time intervals between consecutive heartbeats, and a healthy heart isn't necessarily a metronome. Rather, we want these time differences to fluctuate in between these heartbeats. These fluctuations demonstrate that the body is able to adjust to any internal or external factors that affect homeostasis within almost an instantaneous time period. The idea is that the greater the fluctuations, which a tracking device like the one I'm wearing can measure, if it is showing a higher HRV number, the greater the body's ability is in responding to all the stressors, both internal and external, experienced by the body. An upward trending HRV demonstrates that our body is able to recover from any of the stressors being placed upon it, whereas a negative or downward trending HRV trend can signal that the body is struggling to recover from the stress being placed on it. Some examples as to what some of these stressors may be are any diseases or illnesses you have, any life events from school, work, or relationships, anything that you put into your body, and even the workouts that you do. I can't think of a single reason why someone wouldn't want a higher HRV number, which would demonstrate that they just have an overall higher resiliency to any stress being placed on their body. From what I've seen on the internet, the average HRV score, which is pretty dependent on age, but it'll range from about 40 to 100. And when people are up over the 100 mark, that's kind of the point of like, all right, I've got some good shit going on here. Don't get caught up in chasing the highest number possible or comparing your HRV to others, because heart rate variability is specific to you. When tracking your HRV, you want to compare your data to your data and your data only. So what made me want to increase my HRV? Putting myself through some bodybuilding preparations to compete in some shows, which I think a bodybuilding prep is arguably one of the most stressful things one can put their body through. The human body is not meant to be exotically lean, and it will do everything in its power to just not get to that level. And in order to get there, you have to eat far less than what you would want to and train far more than what you would ever want to. I like to use the word uncomfortable rather than hard to describe a bodybuilding prep. Waking up every day to follow the same routine, eat the same meals, lift the same weights in the same gym, and go to bed early isn't hard. Rather, like being a fucking Navy SEAL or growing up in a third world country, that's hard. For the months leading up to before I started my contest prep, my HRV was anywhere between the mid-50s to the upper 60s. But then as the months progressed to my first show, which was in early October, you can see that my HRV just steadily increased with an average of just over 200 for the last 3 weeks of my prep. And then the highest reading I got was 243 on September 26th. I think in the future, HRV will be used as a biometric for all to determine their current health status. But as for now, it's only being used by the ones who actively seek its benefits. The device I use to monitor my own HRV is the Oura Ring, but I have some friends who use the Whoop Watch, and that is also just effective. A cool thing about HRV is that we have the ability to impact its score based on the lifestyle choices that we lead. Treating your body with respect by providing it with a nutritious diet, exercising, and getting quality sleep puts your body in the best position to increase its stress resiliency and recover from the stressors it must endure and the ones that we place on it. The biggest theme when it came to increasing my HRV so dramatically was consistency. Day in and day out, I did the exact same shit. Every single day. Each day of my prep, I prioritized 4 focus areas: improving physical fitness by resistance training and cardio sessions, quality food intake, quality sleep, and regulating my nervous system. My existence each and every day for a little bit less than 20 weeks was dialed in on these 4 things and these 4 things only. In the gym, my aim was to improve performance both towards my muscular and cardiovascular systems. I resistance trained 5 times a week, and I hit every muscle group twice a week. My cardio started off pretty light. For the first few weeks, the only cardio I did was short walks after my meals. Then it progressed to 25-minute walks in the morning before I ate anything. And then the third implementation, in the goal to just get me stupid shredded, was 45-minute stair stepper every single morning, plus the short walks I went on after meals. This focus area was pretty cut and dry. I had a plan to follow, and my job was to execute it each and every day, no matter how uncomfortable I was. My food intake was definitely unhealthily strict, but when it comes to bodybuilding shows and showing up diced to the fucking bone and nailing your peak, this is pretty much required. As for the foods I ate, I stuck to primarily an animal-based diet of single-ingredient whole foods. My protein intake was relatively high, and then the closer I got to show date, my carb and fat intake continue to decrease. This is another cut and dry focus area. I had a plan to follow, and it was my job each and every day to execute it, no matter how uncomfortable I was. Getting quality sleep and regulating my nervous system went somewhat hand in hand, and I'll start with getting quality sleep. I would contribute these two factors as to what pushed me up to the top of getting this unreasonably high average HRV, which I have not seen many other people get. If you want quality sleep, getting your circadian rhythm on lockdown has to be your number one priority. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Circadian rhythm is your body's innate ability to assess what time of day it is and assess accordingly with states of alertness or sleepiness. I woke up and went to bed at roughly the same time each day for my entire prep duration. Each morning I watched the sunrise, whether that was during my morning walk or my drive to the gym to get on the stair stepper, and then each night I watched every sunset that I could after my last meal. For the duration of my prep, I ate the exact same foods at the exact same times and kept my last meal at least 1 hour before going to bed, as going to bed with a full stomach decreases your quality of sleep, as it keeps your heart rate and your core body temperature elevated for longer than you would want if your goal is to get quality sleep. I drink caffeine no later than 2 to 3 p.m., as caffeine itself has a half-life of about 5 to 6 hours, so I wanted to make sure that my body had cleared it and it wasn't so affected by the stimulating effects of caffeine as I reached the sleepiness stage of my circadian rhythm. I had a consistent bedtime routine where I only used candlelight for the last hour, as any artificial or blue light acts as a stimulator and dampens the body to enter that sleepiness stage of our circadian rhythm. And within that candlelight, I took a warm bath pretty much every night. One of the ideas behind taking a warm bath is that it forces blood to rush to your extremities, which causes a decrease in your core body temperature, which helps us get deeper into that sleepiness phase of circadian rhythm. And along with that, taking a warm bath just feels fucking amazing and is relaxing as hell. Once I was in bed, I made sure that my sleep environment within my room was tailored to getting as best quality sleep as possible. I did this by having dark curtains in my room. It was super quiet, besides maybe a fan, and if my dog didn't bark, I wore a sleep mask. And then a favorite for many of my friends at the gym was that I taped my mouth shut so that I was breathing exclusively through my nose. All I'm going to say on here is that if you're watching this video and your mouth is open and there's air flowing in and out of it, close your goddamn mouth right now and start breathing through your nose. Things I did to regulate my nervous system were attempted at calming myself down back to a baseline state of awareness both mentally and physically. Before prep, I was already a regular meditator, so I used this to my advantage throughout parts of each day to bring myself back to that baseline mentally and physically. I kept a prep journal where I wrote down my feelings for the day, how I felt about the process of prep, and things I was grateful for, and I would contribute this prep journal to a big reason why I would consider my prep successful regarding my mental status. Along with the bath that I took at night, once I started my stair-stepper routine in the mornings, when I returned home from that session, I would take a bath as well, and I was throwing in loads of Epsom salts for both of them because that shit is relaxing as hell. And that was a perfect time for me to meditate and just bring myself back down to peace and return to baseline. Those were the things that I did to increase my HRV, but there were also some things I avoided that would have decreased my HRV had I done them. The main things I avoided during my prep were THC and alcohol. Alcohol is indisputably bad when it comes to getting quality sleep, but I would argue, which is probably going to be a cold take, that THC or any form of weed does not improve your quality of sleep either. Just because it helps you fall asleep does not mean that the quality of sleep you get with it is good. Personally, for me, weed makes it harder to even fall asleep because my mind is racing like a motherfucker. But the point here is that when I ingest either of them, and I'll put some graphics up from some data of nights that I ingested either one from my Oura Ring, when I ingest either one near bedtime, it takes a prolonged amount of time for my heart rate to decrease to its lowest point, and also my HRV is just significantly lower, my quality of sleep is worse, and I have indisputable evidence for what happens to me personally. Besides fucking with your sleep, alcohol negatively impacts your performance in the gym and messes with water retention and the look of the muscles under the skin, which is something I was avoiding at all costs during a bodybuilding prep. And as mentioned earlier, I avoided big meals before bed, which keeps that heart rate and body temperature elevated throughout the earlier parts of the night. Now, being able to implement everything I did into your lifestyle is unreasonable for 99.99% of you, but that's okay. The only reason I was able to follow all the things listed within the lifestyle I led through my prep with damn near 100% compliance is because I lived at home with my parents. This allowed me to survive off such little income because I was dedicating almost my entire day to this prep and getting my HRV as high as possible, and I had essentially no expenses because I was living with them. So unless you want to follow in these footsteps and be broke as hell and living with your parents, by all means go for it. The other situation I think that would be feasible for someone to follow this type of lifestyle would be for professional athletes, and specifically for bodybuilders in this case, as their placings in competition should be 100% dependent on the look of their physiques. And as mentioned before, a bodybuilding prep has got to be one of the most demanding things and stressful things one can place on their body, so taking care of health should be their priority. So doing something like this is only for the broke as hell or professional athletes? What about the ones that aspire to get their pro card or who have other big goals that they'd like to achieve? Having a healthy and stress-resilient body isn't essential for all types of success, as there are many successful people who lead absolutely degenerate lifestyles, but they still get their shit done. But I guarantee you it makes the process a hell of a lot better experience if you feel good physically and mentally. In the case of achieving true peak physical performance, this brings me to the topic of sacrifice. The higher the goals, the greater the sacrifices needed. You'll have to be selfish with your time, miss out on fun events with your friends, and just eliminate things that the average person wouldn't have to because they're not trying to reach the pinnacle of performance. It all comes down to what you want to achieve and what you want to be remembered for, and a man's worth is determined by the worth of his values, and that is up for you to decide. In conclusion, you do not need to put yourself through a bodybuilding prep to increase your HRV, and I would definitely advise against it if that's your reason. What you need to do is find your why to become a better, healthier, and more stress-resilient version of yourself. It can be as simple as doing something good for you. It could be trying to keep up with your kids as you get into old age. Or it could be something as crazy as getting your IFBB Pro card and making it onto the Olympia stage. Find your why and let it fuel you. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe, as this is my second video of plenty more to come. Head to my website, evolutionaryaesthetics.com, for any free health and fitness resources I've got on there. Currently, I have a Potent Priorities book, which covers the 4 main bases for a lifestyle you should follow to achieve impressive yet sustaining results, which also will increase your HRV indirectly. And then a 4-week program I made designed to improve your mind-muscle connection, which my first video was a deep dive on. And it's a whole video breakdown for it. And leave a comment down below if you found any of this interesting, and you'll see me in the next video.